now with mic on. Hello, I've just been informed by Lars that I just delivered the entirety of that lesson without actually clicking to go live, which means I've just done a whole 20-minute lesson and you weren't there to watch it. So I'm doing really well at this live streaming. I was getting so confident and so like, I'm doing really well here. I know exactly what I'm talking about and I haven't made any mistakes yet today. And I'm sure I'm going to have a good laugh later about the fact that I've just done a 20-minute lesson and no one was watching it. So I'm going to do the entire lesson again and hopefully you're going to see it and hear it. So I'm not on mute. I have gone live like an imbecile. Let's do a lesson on cumulative frequency and see if we can learn something. So, cumulative frequency. We're going to be talking about stacking numbers and combining them together. Making sure that we understand how they work together, how they build up. Collecting things as we're going. Before we do so, I'm going to set you a quick task to find the estimate of the mean of these numbers. So, while you're doing that, hello Lars, hello Izzy, hello Abdullah. I do apologise, I'm sure I've given you a good laugh. I can't believe you waited around so many minutes. I was wondering why Abdullah had said I was 8 minutes late, and then I looked up as I was finishing the lesson and went, oh dear, I never clicked to go live. What a moron. So thank you so much for sticking around. You've been very patient. This is the second time I've done this. If you can, quickly note this down. Feel free to pause if you're watching the video after the event, which a lot of higher tier students do, and I do understand that. Feel free to pause this so you can have more time to complete it. But this is finding the estimate of the mean. Hopefully we've remembered to find the midpoints, and then midpoint times frequency, and then when you've got the midpoint times the frequency, you're going to get the total. So this is going to give you 730 will be the total of your midpoint times frequency, 120 is the total of your frequency, so you divide them and you get a mean of approximately 6.08. But we're going to be looking today at cumulative frequency, and you'll notice on the left-hand side of these, all of the numbers are zeros. So, let's see how this relates. Now, while you're doing this, you might like to realise that I always like to give new facts to people. I always think it's useful to give people new facts, things they didn't know already. So, one fact I discovered this week, which I'm sure will delight and inform you. Did you know, it's nearly Easter, did you know rabbits can't actually smell chocolate? Yeah, I was shocked by that. Turns out they've all got bunny noses. Now, I'm not apologising. I refuse to apologise. And it is the way it is. Let's get you ready on this page of fun. Right. Can you all see that? Hopefully you can. This is a question all about cumulative frequency. I've got questions there, and I'm sure you'll tell me in the chat if you can't see anything. And I'm going to show you me as well. Hello! So, we've got an information all about the height of 40 bushes. And the whole purpose of cumulative frequency, as opposed to, if we were to do a line graph or a bar chart, we could just look at the individual gaps themselves, like between 170 and 175. This allows us to look at all the data in one big group by accumulating it together. What that means is, we can take our 170 to 175, which is 5, and then gradually group them together. So, I'm going to pick, for the second time today, 5 stays there. But, in order to look at the next one, notice how these numbers are all 170. It's because instead of doing the gap, we're combining it with the next number down. So this is 123 because 5 add 18 is 23. Add 12 more, and we get 35. Add 4 more, we get 39, and add 1 more, we get 40. And we have accumulated all of that. It tells us all 40 bushes are between 170 and 195. So our next job, once we've got the cumulative frequency table, is to put it into a graph. Here's one I prepared earlier, a cumulative frequency graph. you'll notice I've gone up to the top number here of 40, and I've gone along from 170 to 195, so we can fit everything in. At 170 there is none so far. Therefore, we've got 175 is 5, 180 is 23, 185 is 35, 190 is 39, and 195 is 40. So then we're going to go along there and along there. This is a smooth curve. It is not a line of best fit. So what we've effectively done is we've got a smooth curve through all the data. That's our biggest bit of data. That's a smooth curve. This is called a cumulative frequency graph or curve. But what's it for? Well, the main thing is for telling statistics, which we're going to be using the statistics for later on. There are 3 numbers I'm going to draw your attention to, and this is why 40 is a good one to start it with. Because we want to know half, quarter, and 3/4. In statistics, these are all useful information. You should know from year 5, 6 and 7 that the median is the one in the middle. It's the halfway point. But the new bit of learning is this is the lower quartile and the upper quartile. So we've got the median reads across to the line and down, straightest line possible. You would use a ruler, obviously. These are going in 2s, so this is going to be 179. The lower quartile goes across to the line and uses a ruler to come down, 175, 6.5. This one goes along to the line and comes down, giving me 182. And finally, the best bit about doing it on the graph like this, if you leave space below it, you can draw a box plot by putting a line for your smallest data, a line for your biggest data, and just use your ruler, leave a bit of space, and carry on those lines. If you turn those middle 3 lines into a box, that is the box plot of the data. Because although this is not on box plots, a reminder, a box plot is the lower quartile, the median, and the upper quartile. The gap between those two is called the interquartile range, or IQR, interquartile range. But sir, you still haven't explained why. Okay, well, it's for basically analysing. I need to be able to say, okay, where are the top 10% of bushes? Now, this is more obviously practical in things like test results and things like that. But the top 10% of bushes, 10% of 40 is 4. So take 4 off of that, and we're going to go there. That's 36. I'm going to read all the way across and read up. As neatly, you will always use a ruler and pencil for this. And so you've got 185.5. So we can say the top 10% is bigger than 185.5, or bigger than or equal to. So we're able to say what the top 10% score is. Now, especially you imagine if we're doing a test and we're trying to say, oh, what's the top 10%? Top 10% get? It's a good way of doing that. We can see what the top 10% in the class we're able to score, or we can see that the top 10% of the heights, for example, or how many people scored more than 10%, more than 90% or something like that, because we could find 90% of the score. I have a second example so that we can just practice. Any questions? Now, the interquartile range, Abdullah has just mentioned, is just that number and the upper quartile there. So it's just take them away. 182 minus 176.5. To find it, you just take away that number from that number. So in this case, it's 5.5. 4.5? 5.5. 6.5. I was right, it's 5.5. Shouldn't doubt myself. There we go. Right, well, here's one I prepared earlier, but we're missing something. We haven't got the cumulative frequency results. Do not fear, we can make them. We know, let's imagine we've got some frequencies. So the first one is 10. We've then got 22, 36, 24, and 15 and 3. That makes 10, 17, 20, 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to make that 35. 12, 120. So we can now make our cumulative frequency. I recommend everyone pauses the video here and has a go at it and then resumes, or if you're watching live, just we'll do it together anyway. So we're going to add 22 is 32, add 36 is 68, add 34 is 102, add 15 is 117, and add 3 is 120. Okay, so we've got again 0, 0, 2 is 10, 4 is 32, 6 is 68. Reminder, we always plot against those numbers there. Always. We start with that one and then we go down those ones. 8 is 102. And 10 is 117. Difficult to see from here, but I think it's about there. And 12 is 120. Smooth curve. So we've got, because it's 120, they nearly always choose a number that divides nicely into half and quarter and 3/4. You can always add a quarter to a 3/4. So we've got lower quartile, median, upper quartile. So we just have to read across. We've got about there, 3.9. You'll obviously use a ruler to make sure you've got super accurate results. 5.5. 6.8. And remember, carry those lines on after a little jump. Complete the thing. There's the biggest. There's the smallest lines, and we have our box plot. And as Abdullah was saying earlier, we can work out the interquartile range by doing 6.8 minus 3.9 is equal to 2.9. So it's 2.9 hours. And remember, that is the middle 50%. The middle 50% is the interquartile range. So the middle 50% is between 2.9 hours between them, whatever the data was about. And then finally, why would we do all this? It's to do with comparing box plots. Once you've got the box plots, yes, we've already seen we can read data off. So imagine I had data like this. So when they say compare, they will always offer 2 marks and they will always want 2 points, and there's no flexibility here. The first point must be median, So the second point must be interquartile range. This is an average, and you always have to add to both of these the context of the question. So if this was a time to complete a challenge, we would say that this is group 1, this is group 2. Group 2 had a higher median time, which is bad, so we would say group 1 was quicker on average, and we would make sure we reference the median. And then IQR, we would say the interquartile range, group 1 was more consistent. The interquartile range, or the range at all, tells you about consistency. It's more consistent because it's got a smaller box. The bigger the box, the more spread out the data is, which is why it's less consistent. This has been a whistle-stop tour for the second time of cumulative frequency. I hope the few of you who did stay. How do I get the frequency, Abdullah? Where am I talking about the frequency? The frequencies, they would have been given to you in the question. I made some up to go with the question because the question didn't have any, so I had some. They're not supposed to be something you can invent, you can know. They would be in the question, so they give you a frequency table. Like if we look at the original one, they gave you a frequency table and a cumulative frequency. I didn't have the frequency table to go with that, so I quickly drew it. Okay, that's why I made those up. Interquartile range is always Q3 to minus Q1. Absolutely right. That's how we're going to find it. And thank you so much, Izzy. Thank you very much for Abdullah, and thank you anyone else who joins us and watches afterwards. I've been Mr. Harris, feeling rather stupid. I think a coffee is in order to try and wake me up. And hopefully, next time we do a lesson, I will not be making silly mistakes where I forget to start the recording. Thank you so much for joining me. Any comments, put them in the comments below the video. Send me questions to the addresses on the screen, or to my email address, schoolofmrharris@gmail.com. I'll answer any questions I have, and I'll try and get back to you with any topics that you want me to cover. I'll try and put them into the timetable for the next few weeks. I'm getting better, but as today shows, I've still got some way to go. I am just a school teacher, an old man who's trying to learn to live stream to help you all out. If you have learned something today, and if you are feeling you're learning something, please like and subscribe. Please tell people about it, and let them know that I'm trying to do this while you're off, trying to help out over the summer, and we'll try and help as many people as we can. Take care. Thank you very much.